Hi everyone, today I'm going to be making the clone of Cinnabon recipe. This recipe is so good. If you like cinnamon rolls, you're going to love this. So we're going to begin with, we're going to use a bread machine. So begin by getting your bread machine bowl or, container out. And what you're going to do is you're going to have 1 cup of milk, and this is warm milk. So put that straight into your bread machine container. And then you're going to have 1/3 cup of melted margarine butter. The recipe will be in the description with all the measurements and stuff in there. And then you're going to have 2 and some tablespoons of the yeast. I'm using like the little yeast packet that comes with, that's already prepared. So go ahead and put that in there. Again, you'll find all of the measurements in my description. You're gonna let the yeast kind of activate. The other ingredients you're gonna need is 2 eggs, room temperature. So I've already cracked mine and put them in this little measuring cup. You're gonna need a 1/2 cup of white sugar. You're gonna need a tablespoon of salt. So I'll go ahead and, not a tablespoon, a teaspoon of salt. I'll go ahead and start putting some of that in here. And then you're gonna need some flour. You're gonna need 4.5 cups of flour. If you have bread flour, go ahead and use bread flour, but if you just have, regular flour, that's fine as well. So I've got 4 cups of flour here, and I got another 1/2 cup right here. So the yeast will begin to kind of activate with the warmth of the milk and the butter. And so when that starts happening, after that, you can go ahead and start adding in the rest of your ingredients. So I'm gonna go ahead and add in my eggs. If you don't have a bread machine, you can do this by hand as well. You do not need a bread machine. It's just an easy way to go ahead and let the machine do the dough. So I'm going to go ahead and add in the salt, the sugar, I'm going to go ahead and add in my first 1/2 cup of flour. And then I'm going to add in the rest of my flour. Okay. And so all of that is in there now. And what you're going to do is you're just going to put this straight into your bread maker and set it to make the dough. I'm going to turn the camera around and show you how that is. All right, y'all, this is my bread maker. I just went ahead and plugged it in. It goes to that basic setting first, but what we're going to do is we're going to switch it to dough. And then we're going to press start. So all we're using the bread machine is to make the dough. And so you can see there it's starting to turn, and that'll go ahead and start making your dough for you. So let it go through the whole cycle of making the dough. It's going to have to double in size, and then we're going to roll it out onto our counter. I'll show you that step next. All right, y'all, so the dough has doubled or maybe even tripled in size. It's like coming out of the machine now. Ooh, look at that. Whoa. Okay, so I'm going to have to get this out of the bowl here. And I've already kind of floured over here the counter where I'm going to put it. So I'm going to put my camera down and get all of this dough that has doubled or even tripled in size and get it onto my counter, and I'll show you. All right, y'all, here is the dough. It looks and smells so good. It's so sticky, and I have it right here on the counter with some flour. We're gonna let it just sit for about 10 to 15 minutes. While that's going on, I'm gonna have some lunch, and then we'll get back to it. What we're gonna do is we're gonna roll it out into a rectangular shape. So you can go ahead and get yourself like a rolling pin if you have one, and that'll be our next step. So I will see you here in the next step. All right, y'all, so the dough has been sitting here on the counter for about 20 minutes now, so it's also gotten pretty big. I'm going to go ahead and now roll it into a rectangular shape, but I'm going to turn the camera around and show you how to make the filling. All right, y'all, so the dough is pretty much ready. We just need to roll it out in that rectangular shape, but we're going to need the filling. So what you're going to need to make the filling is a 1/3 cup of butter, and it has to be kind of like softened, so I've already softened my butter. You're going to need a cup of packed brown sugar. So we're going to go ahead and put that straight in. And you're going to need 3 tablespoons of ground cinnamon. So let's go ahead and do that. And this is going to be the filling that goes in your cinnamon roll. Okay. And there's our third one. Okay. And if you feel like it needs more, whatever, you could do or add more if you'd like. So now you're just going to mix it in your bowl, or I'm using a cup here. And this is just going to be spread in your cinnamon roll dough. So I'll show you how to do that. You can go ahead and start rolling out your rectangular shape of your dough. And then we're going to just basically spread this in there. So we can see it starting to kind of get to be more like a butter or spreadable consistency. So make sure that you're getting it all incorporated with that brown sugar. And you can find, like I say, the actual measurements and everything in the description. All right, so let's go ahead and spread this on in on our dough. This is what it looks like. So now I have rolled out all of that dough into a rectangular shape, and it's about that size. Make sure that you put some flour down underneath your dough so that it doesn't stick to your counter, because you're going to get ready to roll this after we put in the filling. So here is our filling that we made. It's in the consistency of like a spreadable butter. So I like to make it this way, where you just kind of, everything's already in a spreadable butter, but you can put the butter on first and then sprinkle the sugar or the cinnamon on top. But this is how I do it. So you're just going to spread all of this, everything that you have in the filling, all throughout the top there of your rectangular shape. You can leave a little bit off the corners, about 1/2 inch. So it might take a little bit to kind of get everything spread out. So eventually I get a knife and I start to spread it out a little bit more. So that's what it looks like. I've gotten it all spread out. Everything's pretty much got a little bit of cinnamon on there. And like I said, you can leave off a little bit off the edges. That is okay, because we're going to go ahead and roll it next. And those edges won't really matter. So now we're going to get ready to roll it. I'm going to set my camera up a little bit different here so you can kind of see. So you're going to start on one edge. You're going to fold it over and begin to roll it very gently. You're just going to keep rolling it until you kind of get it all rolled into a big roll. So go gently around the corners and the edges there and just roll it, roll it, roll it. All of the filling should stay in there. It really shouldn't be too big of a mess or anything. It's just gently rolling it over and keeping it in that cinnamon roll shape. So as you begin to roll it more and more, you'll get to the edge, and then what you're going to do is just kind of fold over the top. And you can kind of seal the edges by just pressing them down a little bit firmer. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to get ready to slice our cinnamon roll shapes. So get yourself a nice sharp knife. And then the next thing that we're going to do is going to go ahead and put it into our baking dish. So get yourself a baking dish. I've already oiled mine. I just sprayed a little bit of spray cooking oil in there, and now we're just going to slice them. So just slice them like so and place them into your baking dish. I'm making 2 sets. I'm making 1 set to give to some people that my husband works with, and then I'm having some for us to keep here at home. So some of the edges might be a little bit smaller. So I'm doing 2 pans, 1 pan with the bigger rolls in it and another pan with the kind of odd shaped ones or the ends that are a little bit smaller. You may just have everything about the same size, but I did get some smaller ones at the end. I'll show you that when I zoom out of my baking pans. So go ahead and just slice them. I'll show you about how thick you want them and all that. That's how they look. And then the thickness of it, you can make it however you like. If you would like the rolls a little bigger, make them a little bigger. If you like them a little smaller, make them smaller, whatever you like. I like to make mine pretty big, just like Cinnabon does, about that size. So that's the size that I'm kind of going with. And these will double in size a little bit more as they sit on the counter before you bake them, so keep that in mind. As you can see, the filling is very even in there. That's why I like to really spread it on there, more like a butter rather than sprinkling it, because it really does get evenly in there. So these look and smell so good already. They have that yeasty kind of smell, and you can smell the cinnamon, so it really smells good. You can go ahead and preheat your oven. So you're going to preheat your oven to 400 degrees. And when you go ahead and bake them, they're going to be you're going to bake them for about 15 minutes. You can find everything in the description with the actual instructions in there. So that's what my pan looks like. Those are the bigger rolls that I made. And here I am getting a little bit more of those ends that are a little bit different. And I'm going to put those in another little baking tray where I'm going to give those away to people that my husband works with. They really like to get any of the sweets and stuff that I make or have left over. So I'm sure they will appreciate that tomorrow morning. So that's what those look like. As you can see, they're a little bit smaller, and I'm spreading them out more individually so that they're easy to grab and pick up. Whereas the ones that I'm baking for home, they're going to be all stuck together just like Cinnabon makes. So you can make them any way you prefer. So that's how they look in the pan. Don't they look good? Lots of cinnamon filling in there, and they're just looking just right. So here are the other ones. Those are what those look like. They're a little bit odd shaped. The ends sometimes look a little different, but they're just going to be just as good. So now what I've done is you're going to let these sit on your counter for about 20 minutes. And what they're going to do is they're going to rise. So you can see that my cinnamon rolls have risen a bit. They've pretty much like almost doubled in size. So that's what they look like now. The next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to show you some of the ingredients here that we're going to use to make our icing. So you're going to need powdered sugar, a block of cream cheese, some vanilla flavoring or vanilla extract. I was going to use some walnuts, but I think we ended up not using them. Now we're going to go ahead and put our cinnamon rolls into the oven. So there they are in the oven. And there they are. Go ahead and leave them in there at 400 degrees for 15 minutes. Set yourself a timer. And so while that's going on, you're going to want to make your icing. So your icing, all of that is in the description. You're going to use, like I say, the ingredients that we talked about, the cream cheese and all that. And the cream cheese sometimes doesn't mix very well, so I use this emulsifier just to get it a little bit smoother. And here are the cinnamon rolls. They have come out of the oven, and that is what they look like. They're going to be a little bit golden brown on the top and a little bit golden brown underneath if you lift them up. But they're still going to be so soft and gooey on the inside, but they will be baked and good to eat. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pour on the icing, and then I will smooth it out in just a bit, but you're going to want to go ahead and pour some of that on there. You can let your rolls kind of cool down a little bit, but you still want them to be warm. So I let mine cool down about 5 to 10 minutes, I think, and then I went ahead and put the icing on there. So they are still warm. And you're going to just spread the icing around so that everything gets kind of a little bit of icing, gets a little covered. Just go around and spread it and make sure that every little cinnamon roll has gotten its bit of icing. If you have another icing recipe that you prefer to use, you can do that. This is the one that I use for the clone of Cinnabon. It really tastes just like the Cinnabon cinnamon rolls that they have. So I have quite a bit of icing still, so I'm going to go ahead and add some more. I also just want to get it all covered and make sure that every little bit has a lot of icing on there. So I'm going to go ahead and spread that out again. And this is going to make the cinnamon roll taste so good. Even as it sits here, it's just going to get yummier and yummier. So this big tray of cinnamon rolls is a good size to like feed family or when you have people over. I often do these cinnamon rolls. Almost every Christmas I make these. And I usually sprinkle a little bit of like red and green sprinkles on top if it's Christmas, but I always make this specific recipe for Christmas. And I usually make it the night before, or I have everything ready to bake in that morning. So that's just something that I've always done as a tradition. But sometimes in the fall, like it is right now, I like to make some sweets like this to have in our evenings. So that is what it looks like. Doesn't that look good? So that's it. That's the cinnamon rolls, this clone of Cinnabon. That's what I call them. And so here I am the next morning. I'm having some of the cinnamon roll that's been left over. Even the next morning, it tastes so yummy, y'all.